Well, good morning. It is a beautiful Tuesday here in Salt Lake City. I hope everyone in the US had a nice Labor Day weekend. It's time for more Spatial Short Talks. I've got 4 lined up for this week, which I have a certain theme. I'm trying to, again, when I do these short talks, focus on a certain theme. I'm really focused on new. I think I probably have been for most of my career. New being, in the case of the work I'm doing now, new thinking, new perspectives, and new approaches. And in the spatial industry, I think it's long overdue that we actually started looking at things slightly differently. We're in a very disruptive phase in our industry, and I sense that people are following the same repeat patterns that they've followed historically. I think it's time for new. So creativity was the thing that really came to my mind. And I looked up the definition of creativity. A lot of people think creativity is this artwork, music. That's the place that creativity is generally put into. I don't put it into that category. And I wanted to include a video, which I'm going to show in a second, of Ken Robinson, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But he was a huge advocate of imagination and creativity. And I'm going to play this short piece in just a second, taken from one of his speeches done a few years ago, which I think encapsulates everything I've been thinking about when it comes to creativity and new. So let me play that video now, and I'll come back in just a second.
Actually, we don't have a dog now. Got rid of the dog. Now, what I mean is the power of imagination. Las Vegas was a conception, and it's become compulsive for many people, but it's an ideas place. It's a place that has been made possible and overcome every natural disadvantage because people are sucked into this vortex of imagination and fantasy and possibility. Now, I don't ask you to approve of the idea of Las Vegas or what goes on there, though you may, but simply to recognize that it represents this extraordinary human capacity. In fact, everything that's distinctive about human culture, and most things aren't, but everything that is, I believe we owe to this power of imagination. Let me say what I mean by it. What I mean by imagination is the power to bring to mind things that aren't present to our senses, the ability to step outside the moment, to step outside the sensory environment that we occupy and see in the mind's eye forward and backwards and away and beyond. Once you have that power, you have access not just to the present, but to the past. And not just to any past, but to multiple possible versions of the past. I mean, history is such a contested discipline because the past is not a settled place. It's a contested place. The contest in history is not over facts necessarily, but over what they mean, over interpretation, over context, over nuance. And imagination brings that to us. But it also gives us an infinite number of possible futures. We can dwell into the future, not any future, but multiple possible futures. I mean, the past isn't settled, and the future isn't still. It's a gift to us, if we want to take it. And this seems to me to be critically important, because we spend most of our time suppressing this power of imagination or disapproving of it, or disparaging it, referring to it only imaginative, or it's all imaginary, it's only in your imagination. Now, I have a big interest in creativity, and you famously do, but creativity is not the same thing, in my view, as imagination. It's a step on, because you could be imaginative all day long and never do anything. You could just lie in bed all day in your imagination. You would never describe somebody as creative who never did anything. To be creative, you have to do something. It's a practical process of bringing something into being. And to that extent, once you recognize that creativity is a transitive process, it means that you can facilitate it and teach it and make it possible. But as soon as you recognize, too, that it has its roots in imagination, it means that everybody is capable of it. And this is something I just want to get to in just a minute. So I think of creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. Or you could say it's applied imagination. And I think it's of critical importance now, not to our well-being only, though it is for that, but to our survival.
So I just love all the talks by Ken Robinson. That one was particularly good to Microsoft, actually, it was done to. But the things that really struck me was that idea of what's possible, imagination. But without creativity, imagination is just this ideas session. Creativity is that actually creating things of value from imagination. So they're very closely connected. Applied imagination, I love that. And I think as a spatial industry, we spend time looking backwards and repeating patterns that we've done in the past. That might be how we approach sales, how we do marketing, how we build new products. That whole development, evolution of the industry, I feel as though what Ken said there about the possibilities for the future needs a completely new way of looking at things, a much more creative approach to things, a much more imaginative way of doing things. So that's the kind of mission I'm on, actually. And really, when I reflect on it, it's been what I've done for most of my career, is to actually bring that new to organizations, to provide that different angle of attack, that different perspective, again, different approach, different thinking, but to act on that stuff, to actually deliver things which really change our world. So there's our Tuesday talk. I'll do another one along a similar line, either later today or tomorrow. So thanks very much for watching.